Hey guys, welcome back to Auxhart Gardening and to today's garden tour. Things are going to be a little bit different today. There's a lot of stuff that I need to get done in the garden because I have actually been gone for the last 4 or 5 days at a family reunion, and I actually have not looked at the garden until today, but I know that there are plenty of things that need to get harvested, and I'm going to take you guys along with me. We are going to harvest some onions, we're going to harvest some fava beans, probably going to prune some tomatoes, and in the meantime, on top of all of that, we'll talk about how the garden is actually doing. The first cool thing that's new is I finally set up my drip irrigation system that I got for my birthday. I'm very excited about this. I've only run it once, and it did rain while I was gone, which is really nice, except that it rained a ton all at once. I think we got almost 4 inches in just a few hours, and you can see, especially right here, that the swale did not keep water from rushing across the garden. Right here you can see all of this mulch is just kind of washed away. So that is not super ideal. I will move most of it back. And this is even after I widened and deepened the swale. We could take a look at that. So this is my small-ish for a swale. It is about just a little lower than my knee deep. And it runs all the way down the length of the garden. And the idea is that as the water runs down this hill, it fills up the swale, and this keeps it from doing what we just saw, where it's washing away all of the mulch. So what I'm guessing is that water built up in the swale and then started overflowing, especially kind of in this area. And, at some point, there's not a lot you can do to prevent that. This swale has been a good size for almost every rainstorm we've had, and sometimes you just get those massive storms that completely overwhelm your infrastructure. But the good news is there's not just a whole ton of damage from it, and the chances of it happening again soon are very low. This is sort of like a once a year kind of torrential downpour. Hello, Miss Kata. Did you miss me? Yeah. What a sweet girl. So the first thing I'm going to get started on today is pruning of the tomatoes. This is the tomato row right here, and as you can see, they are really taking off. We've got tons of fruit on these vines. These are black beauties right here. And I might actually start looking at ones that are getting close to harvest. I don't think any of them will actually be ready, but we're definitely getting some that they're getting shinier. Like if you look at the relative shininess of this one versus this one, for example, see how that one's kind of more matte and this one's starting to look a little shinier. That's a good sign that your green tomato is about to be turning red. So we've got quite a few of those, and quite a few extra branches coming out that need to get cut off. I am single stemming my tomatoes, which means that all of these suckers you see coming out at the 45-degree angle between the main stem and the leaf arms, all of these have to go. And what that does is that keeps the tomato from really becoming a jungle. It keeps airflow between the leaves, so that reduces disease, and it just makes the whole thing a little more manageable. So it looks like I just cut off a lot, but really the tomatoes don't need a ton of those lower leaves for, being healthy plants. They are going to get shaded out by the top leaves anyway, And like I said, if there's not enough airflow, then those leaves get diseased and die anyway. All right, so let's take a look at this second row here. My lettuces here at the front are going to flower, and they look really, really pretty. I will probably trim some of the outer branches here to keep them more contained as they flower, because they will only continue splitting and spreading out. Now the tomatillos here, the cages don't seem to be holding them up very well. A lot of the branches start lower than the cages can support. However, we do have fruit swarming on these, and I am looking forward to at least getting some of these harvested. Something interesting I want to show you. This fruit fell off. I don't know why, but this paper is actually pretty hollow until the fruit inside kind of grows up to fill it. So when you're first starting to see these little like paper lanterns almost come up on your tomatillos, if they feel hollow, that is normal. The fruit will inside fill out that shell. I noticed some of my first cosmos are starting to bloom. These are looking really pretty. As we move farther down the row, I do have my radishes going to seed here. I think I really need to come through and trim a lot of this out, or just straight pull them out at this point. Some of these seeds are getting close to viable, so I will leave a couple of branches so that I can save seeds. But for the most part, all of this needs to get really cleaned up today. Also, I want to point out the onion flower progression. So if you look at some of these, you can see the open little flowers, and then you see these ones that are kind of closed up. And after all the flowers have opened, these ones that are closing back up, they look a little different than they did when they were first closed up before they really bloomed. They almost kind of look like popcorn to me. But that means that it was pollinated and it is starting to make a little seed in there. So all of these little closed up flowers are going to be onion seeds. Farther down along the row are the potatoes. I honestly could probably start pulling these purple potatoes any day now. The plants, you can see they're dying back. That means that they're pretty much done growing. There is a bit of a grace period as far as when to harvest. So I've got, a couple of weeks. Don't necessarily have to be doing things right now, but I could start pulling them right now. We'll see if I end up having time for that. That is kind of the lowest on the list, because there is such a grace period that I'm still in where I don't necessarily have to do it right now. Over here on the other side of that row, I've got a couple of sweet peppers here. These are actually looking really good compared to some of my other plants. And then if we look further down, we've got most of my eggplant are right here. And these are looking great. There was this one over here that got kind of munched on when it was little. You can still see this leaf that was super munched. But as you can see, that doesn't seem to really have affected it at all. It is doing totally fine. Right here is a great illustration of the difference in the onion blooms. This is freshly opened, and you can see only a couple of these flowers have actually fully opened, and the rest of these are closed up, ready to open. Whereas this one has already bloomed, and these are closed up in a pollinated way. You can see the difference in the way those buds look. I've also started pulling onions. I pulled a few before I left, and I left them out to dry here, but I was not expecting the big rain that we had. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not the best as far as curing onions. Since these are so freshly picked, maybe it won't be that big of a deal, but all of these have to come in to dry, at least on the porch. So some of those onions were normal. Some of them went to seed, and they look a little bit more like this. The bulbs are smaller. These are still perfectly edible, but they will not store very well, so you should eat them pretty quickly. Some of my onions that sprouted were first-year onions, but others were second-year onions like this. This was one onion that I planted, and it split, and then it flowered, which is normally what onions would do because they have a 2-year life cycle. But so these ones that I intentionally planted, I knew that they were going to go to seed, and that was what I wanted. The rest of them, the first year onions that did go to seed, I am going to pull all of those, and these ones that are second year onions I will leave and harvest the seeds from. Since it rained, my blueberry plants are actually doing pretty well. These blueberries are looking real close to harvest. If I wanted, I could harvest them now and they would be slightly underripe, but I don't think I'm gonna have enough for a batch of jam, so I am gonna wait for all of them to get pretty ripe for fresh eating before I pick them. Here on the trellises, the peas are still here, but it is time to go ahead and take them out. That is part of the plan today. I will pull off all of the pods, small and big, and bring them inside to eat. And these plants are going to get composted, and hopefully that will make some more room in this area for things that are starting to come up. I do have one little sprout here. I might have to do yet another replanting in this area, which is wild because these just keep getting eaten, but definitely not going to give up on it. I still have plenty of time in the season. This beautiful variegated nasturtium has started to flower, and it's making yellow flowers. Look at that. That is beautiful. Most other nasturtiums you see will make red flowers, so that is really gorgeous. And like, look at these leaves. Isn't that amazing? On this other side of the trellis here, I did finally get things to sprout and survive. This one is only mildly eaten. These ones are eaten but still growing. And I have a cucumber that finally sprouted, and nothing has eaten it yet. On this second trellis, the garlic is looking pretty much ready to be harvested. You see how a lot of these lower leaves have died back? This means that the garlic is ready, and you can see that too because the rain washed away a lot of the dirt here. You can see that this is bulbed up quite significantly. So this is definitely ready to harvest whenever I have time. We'll see if it ends up making it on the list today, but right now it is at the bottom. Something that is for sure on the list today, next thing I'm going to do actually, is I have to pull all of these fava beans. They are pretty much done. These beans are developing in here. They are actually already on their way to drying out in some cases, so I'm going to have a lot of dried fava beans. And you can see these plants are not that healthy anymore. They're pretty unhappy with how hot it's been, I think. So I'm going to pull what I can off of these, cut the plants down, and then hopefully in the next couple of weeks this hot pepper patch will have the room to really start fluffing out. So these are my 2 buckets. They're actually 2 different varieties, which is why I've kept them separate. And I'll have to look up which is which, but they look to be about equally productive. We'll see once I get these all shelled if that still seems to be true. But I'll put the names up here on the screen for you guys after I've looked them up. And look at how much more space these peppers have now. I could probably even plant some more of my extra seedlings in these spots where the fava beans were. I don't know if they'll do very well because they've definitely been neglected in the little pots where they are. But my reasoning is if I don't plant them, they will definitely die. And if I do plant them, they only might die. You might also have noticed that I cut all of these just at the base instead of yanking up all the roots. Hey, Kata. And that is because these are legumes and they fix nitrogen in their roots on little nodules. And so if I was to pull all of the roots out, then I would be pulling all of that nitrogen they fixed out. Kata, why are you bothering me right now? She's like, I should be the star. Why are you looking at all these plants? I just noticed how yellow my hands are. after handling those tomatoes. I don't know if y'all can see it on camera, but they're definitely very like patchy yellow. Anyway, let's take a look at this last row. These onions, a lot of these are going to come out, and I do have some peppers here. These are sweet peppers. They're looking a little better. I still haven't had a chance to spread compost on them, but that is on my list of things to do. That is kind of important. And then farther down here, my poppies look like they are about to start blooming. Look at that. I didn't know that they kind of bloomed upside down like this. That's cool. Look, there's a couple more. One right there, one right there. There's a little one right there. This is so exciting. This sunflower down here is getting absolutely ginormous. Still has not flowered yet, but it looks like, I mean, it's kind of high up there. It looks like it might be starting to form some flowers. So I would be really happy if this flowered. I didn't take this one out because I didn't notice it impacting the growth of anything around it. But this area soon, I would like to kind of clear more and plant corn. I was planning on planting 3 different waves of corn. We'll see if that still happens. It's definitely not too late to get some corn planted, especially because my season is so long. But it is later than I thought it was going to be. Oh, and we have to take a look at this giant volunteer squash. Look at that. Those are 2 really good-sized fruits coming on. They do look kind of like pumpkins, so that's exciting. There's a lot more flowers coming on. I still need to come through and check for squash bug eggs again. So far, I've stayed on top of it, which is absolutely amazing. Oh, no, here we go. These are some squash bug eggs. Oh no, that beetle's struggling. These are squash bug eggs. These you should remove, and what I do is I generally end up ripping the leaf, and I'll take it over here to my stone and crush them this way because they are too tough to crush just between your fingers. If I stay on top of that, I should keep the population down. I just saw a squash bug. I'm going to try and show you guys. It's this grayish bug kind of moving around down here. There it is. That's a squash bug. That's what's laid those eggs. Alright, and then the raised bed. Next to it we have my fig, which is starting to look like it's actually growing. Super exciting. The coriander seeds are starting to mature. You see them starting to change color. So all of these little flowers have turned into coriander seeds. This is going to be a pretty big harvest. Like, this is probably enough for me for a year and then some. Sage, these areas where it was looking sad, it has just continued to die back, but the fresh growth looks really, really nice. I have not yet cut it back. It is encroaching on the space of the parsley, but currently it's okay. Like, this can wait another week or 2. We have even more coriander because I can't bear to just like waste it and take it out. It's not in anything's way, so it'll survive, and I'll have tons of coriander. Thyme, still doing really well. Mexican tarragon, still doing really well. Carrots, I could probably start pulling these. They're starting to look a little unhealthy, but there are roots down there, so I will at least get some carrots from this. Them being in a container helped with germination, but it was really hard to keep them well watered, so they weren't necessarily the healthiest carrots I could have had. In the second raised bed, I still haven't taken out this kale. These leaves are just getting to be insane. I mean, that's like 2 times the size of my head, that leaf right there. And they are very tough. They would not be very tasty to eat, but it'll at least be good compost. We've got chamomile down here, more parsley, chives. These nasturtiums are just not doing well. They still haven't fully died, but I don't think they're gonna make it. This one, maybe it'll start looking healthier. It has started to green up a little bit, but my hopes are not very high. Also, this lettuce that I cut back, it is trying to come back from its little stem. And then we've got the Greek oregano here, still doing great. Lemon thyme, still doing great. And this other parsley, also still doing great. And then over here I have my mint plants. This one is spearmint. This one is licorice mint, and that one is catnip. This plant did die back because my cats yanked it up, so I got a new one and planted it here. It looks like it's been chewed on a little bit, but so far not too bad. Alright, and let's come check out the berry patch. So I, like I said, was away for the weekend, and my neighbor told me that some deer came by. That looks like that's what this is. The strawberry patch is very resilient, so that's not like the biggest deal, but I am concerned about them coming back. So I might set up some more of my pie pans, like you see around the main garden, to kind of help discourage them. But I do need to come through here and harvest because we've got a lot of ripe fruit. The blackberries are still coming in. We've got brand new little babies like these, and then fully ripe ones like this. Been harvesting and freezing these so that I can make jams and pie fillings and the like. Raspberries, I think, are slowing down. You can see there's still a few ripe ones in there, but we do have new little buds coming on that will eventually be harvestable. But this will be like an entirely different wave than what I was harvesting. Oh, and look at that. It is June, and the June bugs are here. Making more June bugs. Look at that. These, I feel like they're largely harmless. I'm not real concerned about June bugs. My rosemary is still existing back here in this jungle. If you remember, half of it just randomly died a while back, and the rest of it that didn't die is looking absolutely great. Alright guys, that is all I have for you today. It is time for me to turn off the camera and get even more of this work done. But if you're new here, I recommend that you go ahead and catch up on garden tours with this playlist right here. And if you like this video, please subscribe. It really does help me out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I wish you all happy gardening.